In this episode, we're going to talk about how to build a full-time six-figure income with your online business, even if you have a small audience. So stay tuned.
If you want to build a legitimate, profitable online business without shiny objects, without the hypey gimmicks, and without the stress and overwhelm, if you want to make more money without having to be present online all day, every day, pumping out content that nobody sees and hustling DMs to generate leads and sales, then this is the place for you. Welcome to the Digital Trailblazer podcast, your online business university, where you'll learn how ordinary people start from ground zero with no influence, no email list or audience to sell to, and no business or marketing experience, and go from working 9-to-5 jobs to building successful 6- and 7-figure online businesses and all the steps in between. Learn the strategies that worked and what didn't. Learn the mistakes that they made and how to avoid them, and then learn their plans for scaling their businesses and taking things to the next level. All so that you can build your business faster and easier and make more money without sacrificing the things that are important to you in your life. I'm your host, Leah Ray Getz, and with me is my husband, Todd. Now, let's get to it with today's guest.
Welcome, everybody, to the podcast. My name is Todd Getz, and with me today is Mr. Dan Ray. Dan, welcome to the podcast. Why don't you introduce yourself to our audience and let them know what you're all about?
I'm Dan, and I think the best way to introduce myself is that I'm sort of a ridiculous business person. There's a lot of stuff that I've done wrong or exactly the opposite to the way you're supposed to do things, and just found my own way through. And what I want to do here and what I've done with my business the way it exists today is attract those people who find, like when you have the thought, like, I'm really smart, but underperforming, and I should be able to do this with my level of intelligence, but for some reason I haven't. And I've not reached a level where there are people who have less ability than me, less intelligence than me, who've achieved these things, mainly through not being able to cut through the noise and not having clarity of where to go and what to do.
Yeah, it's funny that you put it that way because I remember my wife and I feeling the exact same way. But this was when we were doing stuff like network marketing. And I remember sitting in those conferences, and it's like a big pep rally for adults. And they've got people going on stage with the big checks and talking about all their success. And event after event after event, Leah and I were just sitting in the front row. I mean, we were consuming everything that we could. We were doing everything we were supposed to do. But every single time a new event came around, we thought we were going to be on stage, and we just never made it. And we started thinking to ourselves, well, how is it? Like, these people are no smarter than us. They're no better looking than us, right? They're no more talented than us. How are they doing this? We've got advanced degrees. We've been successful in other things in life, and we still just can't get this to work. And that's kind of when we started our journey into online marketing and learning lead generation and things like that. And then things changed. But for us, yeah, the exact same thing. So it's so funny. So your story is actually very interesting. You've got some things in your past that have kind of caused you to rebuild a number of times in your business. Why don't you tell us about that?
When I was 8 years old, I was diagnosed with a kidney disease called nephrotic syndrome. You don't need to look like this up. It just means my kidneys don't work, right? It's really difficult to build a business and then get really ill. And this has happened to me maybe 3 times over the course of my career so far. And you end up spending a few months in hospital, and it's really difficult to maintain client contact and deliver on what you've been paid to do, right? So the first time it happened to me, and I spent over a month in hospital, and I came out and I was like, right, if this happens to me again, I need to have a way to alleviate some of the loss. So I've come out, had to completely restart. You build again, and you sort of put systems in place so you can work a little bit more efficiently, a little easier. So I thought to myself, I'll build these systems that I can still do whilst in a hospital bed, right? And then it happens again, and you realize, oh, my systems aren't good enough. It's completely gone, nothing left again. The third time, and these are small bouts of illness where it's like you recover after a certain time, but you're still in hospital doing kidney dialysis, which is a very, very draining thing, but temporary. We eventually get through to this final time where they tell me, oh, your kidneys aren't going to recover, and it's done now. This is the rest of your life until you get a transplant. And that's where I am right now. I have a tube in my chest. I'll be going this evening. We go 3 times a week, sit there for 4 hours, have my blood completely re-oiled. And it's really difficult to maintain businesses at that level with you lose everything. So since this has happened to me, like, my hair, my looks, my eyes, my teeth, everything's just gone. It's not where you want it to be. You look in the mirror, you don't recognize yourself. You have constant fatigue. Naps are like your currency, and there's no way to do the standard thing alongside that. You can't live a normal life and the constant hustle culture that you hear about. You have to do all these things and you have to do it this way and you have to show up this way. It's really just not true, because you can build things in a certain way that attracts who you are. And like we said earlier, we are probably quite similar in the, whenever we had a boss or there was somebody stood on stage in front of us, you think, I could do that. There's nothing in the way, and you do what they say and you don't get there. So you're like, there has to be a different way. So you start like, I don't know if it's the same for you. My standard is I see things and I use a lot of the Socratic method of like, why, how? Just a very simple question. What happened there? How did they become that? And quite simply found out how. And now I show people exactly what I did. There is a very strong, like, that's bull detector where you go, it's just a lot of fluff around what's the core thing and what's all the fluff around it. Because that's what people sell, right? The fluff. So I thought, can I just say, I can do this thing really well, show evidence of that, and then say to people, do you want it? And that's kind of where we are now.
Well, and I think with that experience of looking at the successful person up on stage, or that you're learning from in a coaching program, and they're saying, okay, this is the one thing, this is the one key, or this is a really important part. There's so much to building an online business. And yeah, there may be one important part here, but that doesn't mean the other parts aren't important. And so I think a lot of times what somebody just takes for granted, that, for example, like I would say building an email list, everybody should know that you should build an email list. But I'm not necessarily saying that in my marketing that, oh yeah, this strategy helped me to do this, that, and the other thing. I'm assuming that people who are learning from me know that you should have an email list as well. But not everybody may have that assumption. People may be coming in thinking that, oh, well, this is all I need to do and I don't need an email list. And so I think that's part of this, is just assumptions that are being made that aren't necessarily true on one side or the other.
There's a very common path that I see people take where it's bought a course or the other course. They've got 100 PDFs saved and it costs them thousands and thousands and thousands. And they have so much of it that they don't have a path. And they don't know where to go, because they start doing this thing and then it's like, oh, but this person said this thing, and it takes you a little bit away. And you end up, instead of going down that straight path, you end up eventually over here and you're nowhere near where you wanted to be.
Yeah, I kind of see it as having an instruction manual, but you tore out all the pages and you threw them on the floor. Now you got to figure out what order to put it in. You've got all the pieces of the puzzle, or maybe even most of the pieces of the puzzle. But it's like, okay, well, where does this piece fit? Where does this piece fit? And how do they work together? And I think that's, like you said, that's what happens when you buy just one course over here, one course over here, another coaching program over there. And you need that big overall plan of, how do I make it all work together? And what do I really need? And what do I don't need? And how do I systematize it? It's funny, what kind of made me giggle a little bit inside was when you mentioned about looking in the mirror and, the hair is not right, and just constant fatigue and sleep being the currency. And I started thinking about, obviously you've got it worse than I do, but I'm thinking about myself. When my second child came, I felt like that was me too. Like that. Like I looked in the mirror, suddenly I have all these gray hairs, and it's just not on the top of my head. It's in my eyebrows now. It's, in this other places where I can't just diet. And
yeah, you're not Superman anymore.
Constant fatigue, always wanting a nap. So I think even on a smaller scale, a lot of people feel the same way. And I know for us, when we look at our business, when we look at our schedule and how everything fits together, like one of the things that we realize is that it's really tough to take a vacation if you haven't structured your business the right way. Even if you're doing well, it's like, well, if you stop and you take a week off, how are you going to deal with not taking sales calls that week? How are you going to deal with not doing coaching calls or whatever else you needed to fulfill that week? How do you cover for that? And that's just a simple vacation. But then you have other things that might come along, like being sick, or your child being sick, or having to suddenly drive to school to pick up the kids because they misbehaved or they got sick at school, and it's an interruption to the day that they didn't expect, and now it affects their business. All these things that can interrupt your business And one of the things that you were mentioning was having systems in place in order to mitigate that. So talk to us about that. How do we build these systems into our business so that we can have these little interruptions and still function?
I think the core of how I build systems is when I was looking for systems, when I was the person who wanted to succeed and was looking at these courses everywhere and there's this person is the best and you should follow them. I found that there was a lot of a course gets released or a person has dropped something new. My brain would naturally work like, oh, I would like to see how this worked, and somebody else who's done the exact thing that they're saying then left a real feedback. Like, to me, feedback is you want to see that, yes, I read the thing, yes, I implemented it, yes, it worked for me, and here are my results. Where a lot of what I was seeing was it was released last night, it already has 1,000 5-star feedback. The feedback is just of the level where, yes, this looks great, 5 stars. I read it, looks good, 5 stars. And to me, that's not what I wanted to see. I wanted to see where's the proof that this worked exactly as they said it did, and somebody succeeded with it. So everything I do, there's no fluff, there's no hyperbole, there's none of that. There's just, here's what I did, here's how it worked, and these are my results. If you want to do the exact same thing as me, this is how I did it. So that's how I maintain these systems and how I build them in the first place. I just write down, here's the thing that I wanted to do, here's the tools or things that I had available to me, and then in the middle figure out how to use them and list every single step, and everything that I have to do more than once becomes an SOP. And it's just as simple as that. And these systems, they don't need to be like, I see some people selling courses where there's 600 hours worth of content when I can do that same thing in 20 minutes just by distilling the fluff out.
Yeah, that's one of the things when our coaching clients come to us, and one of the questions I'll ask is, well, how long should my program be? How long should the course be? And I always come back with the same answer. It's like, that's the wrong question to ask. Making it longer doesn't necessarily make it more valuable. It's the result that people can expect that gives a value. If you can get the same result in a shorter amount of time, that's actually more valuable. And like you said, in order to make it longer, in order to make it seem like the perceived value is higher, people just stuff their courses with a bunch of fluff. And it's stuff you don't want or don't need.
And I've had thousands and thousands of people. A lot of people have been through my training. And I think you'll probably have seen this yourself. There's the core thing that stopping people is not that they don't know what to do. So you just get that out of the way. Here are the steps, just do this. There's some sort of fear of, maybe not a fear of failure, maybe a fear of success. So it's like, what if I do this and it works? Then I have to keep doing it and be consistent and reliable. I don't think people really trust themselves. There's a huge, huge element. I won't say I've mastered this, but as of today, I've just launched new stuff where it's like, you don't even learn the business stuff at the first step. It's how distracted are you? Like, what is going on in your life? What apps do you have on your phone? What people are you around who are just dragging energy? Like, first, before you even learn I'm teaching people how to do outreach and how to learn a skill and then sell it to people. That you don't even need that at step one. At step one, you need to go, here's an audit of my life and what my day looks like. And these things are just complying to some made up rules and system that I'm supposed to follow. I look on YouTube, I watch 5 videos of how to do outreach, where the first video told me everything I needed. I'm on TikTok for 6 hours just scrolling. It's just escapism. If you just cut one of those things out, it can significantly improve your ability to then just implement the very simple next thing, because you're not left with anything where it's, oh, I can just not do it because I can procrastinate by doing this. If you remove the things that you can procrastinate with, you have no option. You just have to do the thing. That's what I'm trying to show people. It's I've actually sell a new system. I'm not sure how well it's going to go, but I'm not trying to attract anybody anymore in terms of, I'm at a stage where I don't need a large audience, massive amounts of people, and then going, guess what? I'm going to teach you this, so you should join. What I'm doing is, are you this type of person? If you are, this might be good for you. And it's completely free. There's no like sign up or anything. You don't even have to give me your email, because what it's doing is filtering the people that are action takers. And the only way to get past like you would call it typical lead magnet, right? It's called the 7-day escape. And it has nothing to do with business in it. It's just, where are you getting these thoughts from? Where are the distractions? And here's how to cut them out immediately. And the only way to progress anywhere past that is to read it and do it and post proof that you have. And then you get access to the next step. And it's a filter now. It's not an attraction thing. It's only people who take action and do the thing get the next thing.
Okay. So you're kind of putting a step in front of the actual opt-in. Nice. Yeah, I like that idea. So as far as building an audience, that's one of those things that when you have interruptions to your life and you're not consistent with, it's tough to keep that momentum going and to keep building an audience. And, a lot of people think that they need to go viral in order to build a successful business. And obviously that's not true, because you're obviously successful. And like you said, you don't need a huge audience to do that. And I think some of the keys to being able to do that, it's not necessarily reaching more people, but it's filtering down to the people who are the right ones, and then re-engaging them over and over and over. So with you and your business, how do you accomplish that? Because I know, for example, if you're publishing on YouTube or TikTok or Instagram or anything like that, you need to stay consistent in order to keep on the algorithm and keep getting exposure and things like that, if you ever hit the algorithm right. And so I think this idea of being able to build a successful business without having to keep doing the content grind and things like that is very attractive to people. So what are some things you can help us out with there as far as being more effective with the audience that you have?
When I explain this strategy, people are going to go, oh, like, you've always known that it was available. You've seen other people doing it. It's part of your daily life, but no one's ever told you to do it. And you're going to go, oh, it's this exactly what we're doing right now. You have an audience. I watched a lot of your podcasts, and I saw in a post on Facebook that you were looking for guests. You seem to really align with what I was saying in terms of attracting the smart people who know there's a path, but they're probably not finding the right stuff, or they're distracted. And there's a lot of bull and courses with the testimonials we were talking about earlier. The simple way to do this is to go in front of other people's audiences. You say, here's who I am. Here's what I teach. If you're one of those people, here's how to begin the journey. Here's the entryway to whatever it is I'm doing. And that's it. You do that. If you're a beginner and you don't have a skill, the outreach message that you send to a person that you want to be in front of their audience can become the skill. Outreach itself is self-fulfilling. You prove that you can target people. You prove that you can put the idea in front of them, and then you do it. You don't even have to perform well. You just have to perform to whoever you are, whatever your message is. And the people who it clicks with, they come along with you. And you just do that over and over and over and over again. You can truly build your way to, you start off as being this person who nobody knows, but you say this interesting thing, and 2 or 3 people from a podcast go, I like this person, or I like what they said. That one thing stuck with me. So they join your email list, they download your thing, whatever it is. And then you do it again, and another 3 people join, and another 3 people. And then you can use those podcasts. You get better. Your presentation skills get better. You know what hits with the people that you want, and you can build your way all the way to the very, very top of your industry. I actually figured this out because I heard a story. Dr. Phil, he was just a guy who went on Oprah's podcast, and then he became who he is now. You can get to the very, very top by building your way there slowly. Once you have an audience, when you collect all those 3 people, the 5 people, then you start going on podcasts where, they have a bigger audience than 10, 15, 20, 30 people. And you end up getting hundreds of people coming to whatever you want them to come to. And by the end, those very, very top people who you respected and looked up and thought, oh, I could never be on a podcast with them. They want you because your audience is now of a level where, oh, I want to be in front of them as well. So you just do that dynamic. You build slowly, build. And then before you know it, these people are asking you to be on their podcast. And that's exactly what I did.
Yeah, I think looking at Dr. Phil, but it's also Dr. Oz too. Wasn't he someone who kind of got his start on Oprah?
I don't know who Dr. Oz is, but I just know Dr. Phil was the guy I thought. I saw somebody else tell that story and I thought how true it was, and then went in and reverse engineered.
Yeah. Now that I think about it, there's been more. I think it was Dr. Oz, and then also Robert Kiyosaki kind of became very
Yeah,
popular by
definitely
going
him.
on Oprah. But well, even look at this last election cycle in the United States. What did Donald Trump and Kamala Harris do? Especially at the tail end, in order to get their exposure and kind of make their case, they went on podcasts. That's exactly what they did. They went on, what's his name, Joe Rogan and a bunch of others. But even before that, I mean, they were doing media appearances on other people's shows and things like that. Like that's a huge part of their political campaign, is appearing on other people's audiences. And so, yeah, I mean,
It's a perfect example because really, if you think about it deeper than the way you just have in terms of this election cycle, Donald Trump did this to become the president. Like I knew him when I was a child from being in the Home Alone movies, and he's somehow turned that into this. Like whether you like him or not, he's the top guy maybe in the world. It's a perfect example of just getting the audience. Then he finally got the show and he's like telling people, you're fired. Like, and now he's president just by taking these steps and getting in front of the audience and saying the right thing to activate the target you need.
well, and you think about it, I don't know anybody who goes to an actual campaign rally. I don't know anybody who actually watches like C-SPAN. I don't know that I've ever listened to a State of the Union address. Anytime a political commercial comes on, yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to figure out a way to get past it, to get to the video that I want. But I do listen to podcasts. I do listen to Joe Rogan whenever there's an interesting guest on there. I do listen to some of these other guys. I watch YouTube videos. Sometimes YouTubers will have guests on there too. And they'll be talking, for example, Star Trek is one of the things that my kids are getting into now. And so there's a Star Trek podcast called Delta Flyers that we listen to. And they'll bring guests on there from people who were writers on the show that, people that you would never even think to listen to, but they have such interesting things to say. So yeah, I think that's an interesting way to really get in front of the right audience who normally wouldn't see you in other places. And I think it has some really big advantages over the other ways that we generally try to get in front of people.
It's more pure. The people actually know who you are and like your message rather than just something. They wanted to learn how to do outreach, so they downloaded the PDF that made all these promises. I'm just saying, here's what I did. If you want to do it as well, here's how I did it. And here's the proof.
Well, and I think that the other thing is that when someone is downloading just a resource or PDF from you, it's a transactional thing. They're just looking to learn this one little thing, or they want to get this result. But when they're listening to a podcast, they're there because they want to hear what you have to say. And so it's very different. And I think the other advantage that this has is that if you compare this to, say, trying to build a YouTube channel or trying to build a Instagram or TikTok profile or something like that, you can pump out content hours and hours and hours a week consistently and still not really have much of an audience to speak to. Versus jumping on a podcast, it's already a pre-built audience of thousands and thousands of people. They're already warm. They instantly see you as an authority. They instantly see you as credible. The audience is already built for you. You just have to show up and do your thing. And like you said, it doesn't even have to be that great.
Yeah, the way that I see it as well is that most of you aren't in my position, but like you said, I have an illness, you have children, you lose that ability to be consistent. It's the hardest thing in the world to be consistent. With this methodology, you don't really have to be consistent. You can do a little bit of outreach, get on one podcast. That's quite small. And then you can do nothing for another few weeks and then do another bit of outreach. It's really good if you do consistent outreach and you get a regular podcast, 1 a week, 2 a month, whatever. But if you can't, you can do it when you have the energy. Perhaps more effective than podcasts. I don't think I'll get as many followers from this. So the service that I provided for people, the thing that I'm good at, right, is link building. It's an SEO thing. And I've trained some of the best in the world. We do some of the best work in the world, but you can't just tell people that. When I say that on this podcast, it's not going to attract people who need links and want to give me that kind of money. Doing like guest expert spots in Facebook groups has been enormous for getting service clients, because you just demonstrate, hey, that thing that you want and need, I'm competent at it, and here's my price. If I want to sell a service, I might not do podcasts, but I'll do like a guest training to show people that you don't teach this thing, but you might need it and I can do it really well. And you show people exactly how you do it, the results from you doing it. I do a lot of live video where I say to people, here's how to do the thing. And I just do it right on screen, right in front of them.
I was going to say the other thing that I like about podcast guesting and other types of borrowing other people's audiences, like summits and giveaways are two other ways to do this that are incredibly effective. Every time a summit comes along, we make sure that as long as it's someone that we know is credible, that, we're jumping in on it. But the other thing I really like about this over something like paid ads, like that's the other thing is people want the quick result, and paid ads is typically something they see as, okay, I can just pay for ads, it'll give me traffic and I'll get sales. The thing with paid ads is that you're marketing to a completely cold audience that now you're starting from ground zero. You've got to build all the trust. It can be kind of a long process. And what a lot of people do, why they fail with paid ads, is because they assume that they can market to that cold audience the same way that they market to a warm audience. Because most of the time they've gotten their customers and clients through referrals or networking or something like that. And it just doesn't work that way. You can't reach out to a cold audience the same way and market to them the same way that you do your referrals.
Yeah, you have to give the fluffy stuff I was saying I don't enjoy.
Yeah, it's much more of a process. Not saying it doesn't work. It's just very different. And a lot of people don't have that level of marketing skill to be able to do that and be successful with it right away. And so podcast guesting, I see that as the actual perfect middle ground between the organic stuff and the paid ads. You're getting in front of a warm audience. They're there to hear you speak. They're there to learn from you. They're not there just to download a thing or whatever. And it's a perfect opportunity to just instantly get in front of thousands of warm people that are perfect prospects for your business. So you've actually got some freebies and some resources for our audience in order to help them out with this stuff, don't you?
I do. I'm going to try something new. I've never done this before. I don't know how it's going to go. It might be a complete waste of the enormous audience that you have. I'm going to give people two things, and it's kind of a test. So I have the exact full course, no fluff, no bullshit, just here's how to do guest posts. I give you the email to send, how to target them, the strategy, like all the stuff you typically expect from a course, but like simplified, minimal. You can have that, right? I think the people who are going to go that route are not going to survive the filter. So everyone can have that. You can store it, you can save it in your Dropbox and never ever use it, right? Or you can download the 7-day escape and you'll never ever see the next stage until you show me proof that you've implemented it. So I'm going to give both of those things, red pill, blue pill.
All right. So what we will do is we'll have the links for both of those things in the show notes, and you can decide which pill you want to take. If people want to connect with you, check you out online, where can they find you?
danray.me. That's it. That's who I am.
Okay. That is very simple. We will have the links for that as well in the show notes. Dan, thank you so much. This has been a great conversation. I'm so glad you came on the podcast. We really appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
You've been listening to the Digital Trailblazer podcast. For show notes and information about today's guest, head to digitaltrailblazer.com. Now, if you love this episode, if you got some value, make sure you leave us a review and subscribe. And be sure to share this episode with anyone you know who could use help to build their business. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.